The U.S. just unlocked billions in Iranian oil revenue right before a peace deal. On the surface, this looks like a massive strategic error, giving cash to a state sponsor of terror while regional proxies are still active. But it isn't weakness, it is a calculated trade-off. The administration is using sanctions as a temporary lever rather than a permanent wall. They are releasing oil funds specifically to buy operational silence from Tehran in Gaza and Lebanon, effectively paying Iran to stop the bleeding before negotiations on nuclear ambitions even begin. This reveals how modern economic statecraft works, not by crushing an enemy into submission, but by monetizing their behavior for immediate strategic gain. To understand why this move makes sense, we must first look at the numbers driving American decision-making in 2026. The global energy market is currently operating on a razor-thin margin of safety. Global supplies sit approximately 20 million barrels per day short of expected surplus levels for the year ahead. This deficit has created an environment where any disruption triggers immediate panic pricing. Following regional attacks targeting shipping lanes near the Strait of Hormuz, Brent crude prices surged by 28% in a single week, surpassing $92 per barrel on March 6. If hostilities were to continue unchecked and Iranian exports remained frozen at current levels, analysts project prices could easily exceed $100 for an extended period. Such a spike would not just be a headline, it would trigger inflationary shocks across global economies that the United States cannot afford while managing its own domestic fiscal constraints. The strategic pivot here is fundamental to how Washington views power in this new era. Unlike previous decades where sanctions were designed as permanent walls intended to cripple an economy or force regime change, recent analysis suggests a shift toward reversible economic pressure. The framework emerging for the June 2026 deal indicates that unlocking oil revenues is not a concession of defeat, but a transactional mechanism. Washington has realized that total isolation was never fully achievable without causing global market shocks anyway. In fact, data shows that 80% of Iranian exports already flow to China, and attempts to drive those numbers to zero failed repeatedly because the demand for energy overrides political pressure. The current strategy acknowledges this reality. Rather than pretending a cutoff is possible, the U.S. leverages its ability to reimpose sanctions as the primary bargaining chip in bilateral trade tensions with Beijing while simultaneously solving its own energy security problem. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This creates a unique dynamic where oil revenue becomes a hostage for peace. By allowing Iranian sales to resume under specific conditions, the administration forces Tehran into a position of immediate dependency on that flow. The logic is straightforward. If hostilities resume in Gaza or Lebanon, the tap closes again instantly. This turns billions in potential state income into a conditional payment. It transforms oil revenue from simple state earnings into a tool for behavior modification. Washington is using this liquidity to purchase stability on its terms, ensuring that regional proxies go quiet before any final negotiations regarding nuclear ambitions even begin. The deal trades economic relief for operational silence across all fronts, creating a temporary ceasefire funded by the very sanctions meant to punish them. There is also a hidden target in this maneuver that extends beyond Tehran and into Beijing. By controlling when Iranian oil hits the market, Washington demonstrates its continued dominance over global supply chains without needing direct military intervention or costly naval escorts to secure shipping lanes. The threat of reimposing those sanctions hangs over every transaction involving Chinese buyers of Iranian crude. This allows the U.S. to manage tensions with a major rival while stabilizing prices for American consumers and allies in Europe who are suffering from high energy costs. It is a masterclass in realpolitik, where economic leverage is used to align disparate interests toward a single outcome: regional de-escalation without permanent concessions that weaken long-term deterrence. The implications of this approach redefine what we consider a successful peace deal in the modern age. For years, the narrative was about maximum pressure leading to total capitulation or regime collapse. The reality is that economic statecraft has evolved into something more fluid and transactional. Sanctions are no longer just walls meant to keep enemies out. They have become valves used to regulate flow based on strategic incentives. When leaders announce these adjustments, the headline often misses the point by framing it as weakness or surrender. The truth is far colder. This is a high-stakes currency exchange where security outcomes are purchased with energy revenue. For viewers following global markets, this explains why oil prices might stabilize despite ongoing tensions. The U.S. has swapped long-term containment for short-term stability by monetizing Iran's behavior. The question now shifts to what happens if the transaction fails. The mechanism relies on a fragile assumption of Iranian compliance. If Tehran breaks the deal and hostilities resume in Gaza or Lebanon, the valve closes immediately. There is no gradual ramp-up. The revenue stream cuts off overnight, returning the country to its previous economic state, while simultaneously allowing for rapid reimposition of financial penalties by Washington and its allies. This creates a continuous feedback loop where every action has an immediate economic consequence, forcing all actors to weigh their next move against the cost of losing access to global markets. It is a system designed not for permanent peace, but for managed conflict that serves American strategic interests above all else. The shift from regime change to behavior modification marks a significant evolution in how great powers compete. By accepting that total isolation is impossible, Washington has found a way to use the enemy's own economy against them while protecting its allies from market volatility. This approach prioritizes immediate security outcomes over ideological purity or long-term containment strategies that have historically failed. It acknowledges that in a world where energy demand outstrips supply, stability becomes more valuable than punishment. The U.S. is effectively buying time and space to negotiate on nuclear issues by first securing the physical safety of its regional partners through financial leverage. This is not about forgiveness, it is about utility. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.